everyone. Welcome to A New View. I am Kim, and I'm here with Shira, Lee, and Juji. We are four friends, speakers, and professionals from different cultures, backgrounds, and age groups coming together to offer healing and inspiration. Today, I'm super excited about this episode because it's near and dear to my heart. It is about home and what home means to us. And I have a lot to say on the topic because, as you ladies know, I've been waiting a little under 4 years or so to move to my new home, which is North Carolina, from New York, where I grew up, was born and raised. 4 years is a really long time to be in a waiting period. We were, just so the audience knows, we were waiting to get a transfer down here with my husband's job, and it just felt like it was taking forever. At one point, it felt like it was not going to happen. But I found myself just in consistent states of frustration, anger, sadness, depression, anxiety. I mean, you name it, I felt it with this whole waiting period of ours. So it finally happened. We're down here. We're finally settling in. All is going great. So I think what helped us get down here though, and I think what helped me just like finally feel a little more settled was that exact question of like, well, what is home to me? And I think during those 4 years of frustration, what home was to me, of course, it was like security and stability and safety. But I think what it felt like the most was a base for my life to begin, like the future. And I'm pretty sure that's how I viewed home. Like it's over there. It's in the future. It's where I'm going to start my new life, or, you know, finally feel settled, finally feel comfortable. And it was like I was like projecting into this future time. And giving it a lot of thought and talking to you guys about it a lot and other friends too. I realize what home means to me now is anywhere where I am, where I'm surrounded by people that love me. And it's really taken me a long time to get there, like physically, literally and figuratively. So that's what it means to me now. But I do have to say it just feels so good to finally have a place to call my own, because I've been living temporary situations in other people's homes for what feels like a really long time. Actually, my whole life, I've always rented from someone. I've always lived under my mom's roof, under a rental's roof. It was never mine. And even if I rented it, sometimes it felt like mine because it was, I could decorate. It was, you know, belonged to me for a period of time. Now, for the first time in my life at 45 years old, I finally own my own home, which I've always wanted to experience in this lifetime. And, you know, it might be here for 5 years, it might be here for 10 years. I don't look at it as forever, but it does just feel like love. It just feels like calm and peace and like this huge sort of weight lifted off my shoulders. Like I've arrived, but I've arrived because I'm living with people who love me. And I really see that now. It's about that. And it's about loving your material things and loving the paint on your walls and loving your space and making it, it's all about love.
I'm so proud of you, Kim. I really am so proud of you. So proud of us. I'm so proud of you.
I get like, I feel very emotional. Like I can almost feel like something is stirring up inside of me because it really felt like such a long freaking journey to even arrive to this new perspective, because it was so, I lived in the frustration for so long and I couldn't get out of it because nothing was happening. And yeah, so I'm proud of me too. Thank you, Shira.
Yeah, that's awesome. You know, I kind of know what you mean about waiting for so long, but I gotta say, I've got you so beat on that one.
As my mother would say, this is not the competition. This is not the competition.
Yeah. So for me, and I'll get into that in a little bit, but I love what you said, Kim, about you're talking about your move and move to North Carolina and all of this. and how now you actually have your own home and you own your own home for the first time, which is amazing and a feat in itself. But what it all comes down to is that home for you is not necessarily where you are geographically, right? And that's what I think most of this is about. It's not really where we are necessarily physically or geographically, but a part of that, for me, feeling home did have to do with not necessarily a specific place, but the environment that I was born in Israel, and we came to the United States when I was 7. We moved to the United States, and I never felt at home. I felt at home with my family, with my siblings, with my parents. My cousins lived across the street. So I definitely had a home base there with all of them, but I never felt right in New York. I just never felt like this is where I want to put down my roots, and this is where I want to live out the rest of my life. But I have felt that in some of the places where I've traveled. Oddly enough, and I remember this so vividly, like I went and visited Costa Rica for the first time in late 90s. And I remember going, wow, this feels so amazing. It felt like home, actually. And then I visited Arizona, which is a whole totally different topography, desert and everything. But for me, it really resonated with me. There was something about it where I felt like home, although I didn't live there, obviously. And then, of course, there's Florida, where I lived for a couple of years in the early 90s, and I always wanted to come back. And then I got married, and then we stayed in New York, and then we moved here for a very short time. But so here's where I beat you, Kim. So I've been wanting to come back and make a life for myself in Florida. I would say since the mid 90s, when I came back to New York. It was like, all right, before I get married, I'll move back to New York, to Florida, or after I get married, or I'll raise my kids there. So none of that happened, but I'm finally here. I moved here about 5 months ago, and yes, so in a way, my geographical location feels like home, because for me, it's also the environment. I needed to be in a warm climate. That really resonates with me, but truly home is exactly like what you said. Being surrounded, whether it's family, friends, love, support, everything that makes you feel good in life, that stability and that love. So.
Awesome. I love that. My approach was a little bit more laissez-faire, if you want to call it that. I recently moved to Northern California, as recently as 3 weeks ago, officially. So, but it came as a complete surprise to me. I didn't have anything super planned out. I came here because of an invitation from a friend, and ended up, I just remember the first morning waking up here and taking my coffee outside and just looking at the trees and the mountain, and the sun's coming up, and I was just it was just the most peaceful exhale, and my body just felt so relaxed, and I just feel so relaxed in general. And I still, when that happened, I wasn't well, this is great, I'm moving here. It was still months down the line, and really funny, interesting happenstances that got me to where I am right now. But when it was time to really make that decision, it felt like a no-brainer. Mm-hmm. It felt just well, I don't know why this is happening, but it feels like there is a reason. It feels like I need to be here. It feels like not just home. I wasn't born in Hungary, but I was raised there for a number of years, and I lived on a mountain when we lived there. So there is this familiarity of the mountain for me, even though that was in a big city and this is a very small town. But there is just something about being closer to nature, to being in a place where I feel like I can commune with nature, connect to it. People are more connected to the land in general. Like I get farm fresh eggs from like a person who has chickens, not just from the grocery store, you know what I mean? And like people grow a lot of their own food here. There's just a connection to the mountain, to the forest, to the earth that I didn't even know I was missing until it was presented to me. And I was like, oh. Oh. And it continues to be a surprise. You know, there's no like one way to be at home, but I do encourage people who feel like they are looking for a change to just, you know, sort of like feel into that. Like Lee said, travel and see what feels like home to you. It doesn't have to logically make sense. I went from New York City, the Upper East Side, to a town of 1,700 in Northern California. Like those two places could not be more different. But I really feel like this is where I'm here to really align. And I had reached my capacity to do that in New York City.
Yeah, and it feels right to you, right, Juge?
Mhm.
It feels right. It feels, that's the best feeling.
I'm actually getting a little emotional. So
Aw.
I'm feeling a little verklempt. I'll give you a topic to discuss. George Thorogood is neither thorough nor good. Discuss.
I can't.
Oh, Linda.
No, I just I like as we're talking about this topic of home, I just think about the fact that there are so many people out there that are like a new place is thrust upon them. Like they don't get to be like, I'm going to travel and see where I'm going to live. It's like, I think about my dad who like lived through World War II and had his whole family taken away. And then like, you're going to America, you don't speak English, you don't own a place, you don't know anybody. And then suddenly that's your home. And it's like, I can't even imagine how, well, I guess I can, because I too, like Lee, lived in Israel as a child, and that was also thrust upon me. I didn't have any choice in the matter. I was 9 years old. It's like, you're going to a whole other country, 6,000 miles away. You barely know the language. You have no friends. Go. It's like, and I look back on that now, and it was really scary in the beginning because I really was a fish out of water. But now when I go to Israel, it's my home. It really is. I feel so at home there. And then I also think about the changes that I made in the last couple of years of living in the city. And the part that it was making me emotional was that I'm looking around my apartment and I'm like, I feel like I decluttered so much emotionally, physically, you know, the home that I went from a 4,000 square foot home to a 500 square foot apartment. And I feel more home here than I did before because it's all my design, you know, I kind of decorated it. But I know where everything is. It's just so simple and so much more me. I feel like I've come home to myself. And I know that sounds all like, you know, poetic and corny and whatever, but it really feels that way because I feel like I was living for other people, like the way they wanted to. And in my mind, I was going, this isn't right. This doesn't feel good. You know, I felt like nothing was ever finished. You know, we would do this room, but we wouldn't do like the molding, or we didn't because we couldn't afford it, or whatever the reason was. We just sort of like just lived with it. It's like, why did I live with that? That's not okay. And so now I feel like even though I'm renting and I have this little tiny apartment, it's beautiful and it's me and it's warm and sunny and I just love it.
Shira, I feel like everything you just said just proves that home equals ourself. Like
Mhm.
home is inside of us.
Totally.
Because I mean, the most at home, look, I've always had a dream to wake up every morning and take a walk on the beach with my dog. Future dream. with my dog, and then to return home to doing work that I love. That's my dream. That will still my dream. It will always be my dream. And now I live near the beach. I even lived on the beach for a while up until recently. And the dream was like in my hand. I could like walk outside and just go for a walk on the beach. But what I realized is like, it's not so much the beach. I mean, it is, it literally releases tension for me in a way that's unexplainable. But it's those moments with myself where I'm looking out at the beach or just watching the sunrise and sitting with a cup of tea. And it's those moments where I'm just being with nature. You know, I know nature is huge for you, Juge. Like that's home. That's home. So home is within us, and whatever makes us feel good. It's about feeling good.
Yeah,
You know what?
and it's amazing how simplistic it can be. Think about what you just said, like, and how many years it takes for most of us to figure out what it is that we really want and what really truly makes us happy. And it all comes down to the basics. You imagine yourself walking a dog on the beach and then going back and like watching the sunset and being surrounded by family and Shira, for you, it's, you know, and I agree, it's within our hearts. Home is in our heart. And as long as we feel complete with it, we feel complete with ourselves, and we're true and authentic to ourselves.
It's true. Yeah, sorry, Lee, finish up.
Yeah. No, I'm just.
No, I do think that our physical environment is also important. And that's why I was talking before about like the clutter or the, you know, like that you can't possibly like feel good in your heart when you can't find things or things aren't decorated the way you want or things are dirty or whatever it is.
Yeah.
You know?
And there's a direct correlation between having clutter and your mind.
Totally.
It gets cluttered.
100%. But the bigger picture I was just thinking about is that like, we're all talking about our homes, like our individual homes, but for some reason, I just like I just went out and I'm like thinking about our planet as being home. And like, that's why there's so much like global warming, like all of that stuff. Like we have to take care of our home, like our planet home, you know? And I think it's a balance of, you know, because people are just running around living their lives. So like other people are making decisions about our planet, but like, we can't forget that, because this planet that we call home is going to be home for future generations when we are no longer here. And we, you know, we have to not be selfish about it. And we have to think about that.
We need to get more eggs from our neighbors who have their own chickens.
I have so many eggs right now. Oh my goodness.
Good, you love eggs for breakfast.
I do. It's a little overwhelming, but I think I'll get through them.
I think we're going to start to see on her Instagram, like deviled eggs, fried up, an egg quiche.
Yes.
You should make like your dinners like almost like you know how you make chicken cutlets where you have to dip it in the egg and then whatever. Like I'm sure
Dip
you do all
everything in
that.
egg.
Just
Dip
send all the egg recipes my way. I'm ready.
Oh, I love it.
Well, we hope that you find your home inside of you. And I think that's a fantastic place to wrap. Thank you so much for watching. We are just so happy to have you. If you have any questions, comments, or topic suggestions, feel free to comment below. We would love that. Thanks again. Stay safe, everybody. Bye.
Bye.